The Blind Tony Story. Book 3, Chapter 7. Jersey City had one of the worst jails in the country, and it consistently made the top 10 list of worst jails in America every year. The guards were very quick to let you know that you were now entering another world, where outside rules no longer applied. Shortly after arriving in Jersey City, I was arrested by the Civil Disobedience Squad. Now, this was standard operating procedure for them because it enabled them to get to know every new face that appeared at 93 Summit Avenue, the Black Panther office. I was charged with being loud and disorderly because I was singing a song when they rode by. After ascertaining who I was and where I was from, I was thrown into the Hudson County Penitentiary. They have a special unit in Hudson County Penitentiary called 3C. This is a special tier that consisted of only 3 cells designed to isolate and house the worst 3 inmates from the rest of the inmate population. I was immediately placed there and was considered a threat because I was a Black Panther, and I just might incite the other inmates to rebellion. The guards were primarily of Irish descent, and they would take turns coming to 3C every day to see what a Black Panther really looked like up close and personal. Black Panthers were on the news almost every day, and they were considered a very dangerous yet very hot commodity. It would make a guard feel very powerful and also make him look good. To be able to have a few beers with his buddies after work and then go home to his wife and tell everybody, I beat up one of them Black Panthers today. They think they're going to take over something, but not here. They wouldn't say it in those exact words. Their language was a lot more racy and colorful, but I'm not trying to go there. Anyway, they used to take turns coming around the 3C to hurl their racist insults and make derogatory comments, and one day, when they rolled the gates, which means closed the individual cells, locking us in, they left my cell open, and they closed and locked the other 2. I knew trouble was coming. I could hear the footsteps, or rather the bootsteps coming, long before they actually arrived. It was the goon squad, the head whoopers. Everyone on that squad is over 6 feet tall and weighs at least 250 pounds. They are solid flesh coupled with maple riot batons and riot gear. I jumped up on my bunk and prepared for war. And when the first one entered the door, I kicked him full blast. And I did pretty good, but the second one hit my supporting leg with that maple baton, and I instantly crumbled and was beaten to a pulp. The other 2 inmates on the tier made a pact with me that the next time they tried to do that, we would all refuse to go into our cells and we would fight together to the end. Word spread throughout the jail about what the guards had done, and the coffee runner told me by yelling from the tier above that the brothers in the whole jail were standing in solidarity with me. All I had to do was give the word. My wounds healed slowly, and time for my court appearance came and went. Still, I remained locked in my cell. The guards told me that they had informed the courts that I was very ill and was therefore unable to appear in court. They didn't want anyone to see how bad they had beaten me. My lawyers did what they could, but they were considered the enemy too, and they were given the runaround. They were told that I had slipped in the shower. My lawyer in that particular case was a man named Stuart Ball, who was a member of Leonard Weinglass's firm. Stuart Ball and I were very close, and he did everything he could. But like I said, they were considered the enemy too and were given the runaround. The brothers and sisters from the Black Panther office were unable to visit with me, but they did march outside the jail, and I could hear them shouting my name, urging me to stay strong. Lying on my bunk and hearing them shout my name from the streets, infused me with new strength and a powerful conviction and reassurance that I was truly on the right path. Never before had I felt so much love. Then the crowning event occurred. It was a Saturday morning, shortly after my missed court appearance, and I was lying on my bunk, and I heard voices down the hallway arguing, a female voice screaming at the guards. And I recognized that voice, and my spirit leaped within me. It was my sister Kim. She was screaming and cursing at the guards, saying that she wasn't going anywhere until she saw her brother. She accused them of killing me and said that I was dead and they were trying to cover it up. I couldn't visit with her, but they did bring her to the end of the tier and let me talk to her from my cell and reassure her that I was still alive. No one ever loved me like Kim did. She had come all the way from Atlantic City on a bus just to make sure that I was still alive. And she refused to be turned around by the guards or anybody else. The second event in Hudson County Penitentiary that I feel is worth mentioning is when Solomon and I were locked up for gun possession. Solomon got out and the charges against him were dropped, but because I was the driver of the vehicle and the vehicle was under my control at the time, subsequently everything within that vehicle was considered my possession. Anyway, I was told that my lawyers were there to see me, so I was escorted from 3C to a visiting room. The guard remained outside the door, and there were two men inside the room that I didn't know. So I banged on the door and asked the guard to let me out because these were not my lawyer, and I wanted to go back to my jail cell. The guard just ignored me. One of the men in the room spoke, and the other one didn't. The one who spoke introduced himself and said that they were from the Federal Bureau of Investigations and that they were there to discuss the problem in America today, to see whether the problem lay with us or with them. And I just laughed. In fact, I laughed loud and hard. He quickly told me this was no laughing matter and that he was very serious. In fact, he said that they would be willing to give me $50,000 in cash and a new home. And all I would have to do is to keep doing what I was doing, but to keep them informed. And then I laughed again. I laughed harder and louder than I did the first time. And that was when the second man, who hadn't said a word up until this point, hit me. He hit me so hard, so fast, that even now, after all of these years of review and a slow motion replay within my brain, I still can't see it coming. He beat me down, and I ended up calling for help for the guard outside the door. But he still continued to ignore me. I had never felt so powerful before. Even beat down, I was on top of the world. Here I was, this poor nobody from nowhere, and the FBI was offering me $50,000 and a home? I was suddenly very important. I was somebody. I was unafraid, and it felt great. I laughed some more. Malcolm X once said that 3 out of every 5 people who would come into the office would probably turn state's evidence against you. I wondered, how many people that I knew took the deal? I have no idea. I only know that no amount of money could have enticed me to turn against my own. It just wasn't in me, and it still isn't in me even to today. Both times I was released from Hudson County Penitentiary, I went home to a hero's welcome. The first time was when I lost my virginity in an unremarkable penis-bruising, burning experience with someone whom I had no emotional attachment to and no physical desire for. But it was considered the right thing to do, so I did it. The second time I was released, I had no home to go to because the police had raided and closed the Black Panther office in Jersey City. So I went to the Black Panther party in the Bronx. After appraising or apprising the leadership there of what had happened with me, and them relaying to me what had happened in the raid at the Jersey City office, I spent the night with a woman named Carol. This was also a hero's welcome, but she was soft, warm, and a good conversationalist. Very nice. I enjoyed her immensely, and I ended up spending several days and nights wrapped up in her arms. Little did I know that my life was about to drastically change once again